welcome to the Accidental Fatherhood podcast with James and Ash. We started this podcast because there isn't a lot of support out there for us guys. And we're going through a pretty tough time right now.
Yeah, accidents, not mistakes.
Unplanned pregnancies and new relationships and what is going on with our lives. So we're trying to bring a little bit of support through some awesome special guests and...
It's a place to commiserate together.
Oh, that's a good clap.
Yeah, we're fucking pros at it.
I don't know if anyone knows, every time we start a podcast, we clap our hands and we get our guests to clap our hands because we sync our sound to our video.
We sync our claps.
I better put my headphones on because Ash gets upset.
Well, you don't have to. Just makes me feel like I don't sound like an F-wit.
Really? How does that happen?
I think I regulate my sound.
Through your ears?
Yeah, lower my voice.
Rightio.
I swear, like those earlier podcasts that we did, I was like, sound a little bit feminine.
Really?
I'm like, I don't know. It's not what I'm used to hearing, right?
Yeah, so the headphones make you sound more masculine.
Well, it's just, I don't know. Like, I'm not doing anything on purpose.
Do you reckon you're light or you're dark? Masculine or feminine right now?
Last week, I think I was in my light feminine. I was like an injured warrior. Is that right?
Marco was last week.
No. Marco, yeah. We're doing a sneaky back-to-back, guys. We've just had Marco. He's just left the studio.
Just left the building. Better word, and with his wise and educational
thing. So that was
insights.
Great. And so James and I thought we'd do a wrap-up so we can take a well-deserved break next week.
Yeah, because it's a public holiday tomorrow, so we figured all the stuff's set up, so let's just do a back-to-back and have next week off, or leave next week open for possibly mystery guest. So
yeah, which is what we did last time. We did a catch up too. It was a back to back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so Tyler Erickson referred to the light and dark, masculine and feminine,
and the shadow feminine
and the shadow. I was in the shadow last week for sure. I was let's talk about it. I wasn't putting in too much effort at home. I slipped, James. Then Tish gave me a well-deserved rev, which is totally fine, and it didn't put me in the best headspace, made me have a really strong reflection. And then anyway, just was a bit injured.
Well, I did say that we both had a bit of a rough week. Yeah. However, our shirts arrived. I don't know if you can see on YouTube, you'll see, and on Spotify video, you'll see we've got merch in the house.
Yeah.
On the chest.
That's the second time I've dropped it. We need a button.
Why? We don't need a button when we've got that amazing impression of
the DJ. Yeah. The DJ horn. Yeah. But yeah. And if you want to buy some merch, check out our shop that's not open. It would be great if it got to a stage where people were happy to purchase some merch.
Yeah.
But maybe we could come up with some stuff in the future.
I don't think anyone wants to walk around
not advertising the accidental fatherhood, but maybe some stuff for dads. Like some hoodies or something that people might want to buy. I don't know. More work for you, James.
Should we tell the viewers the breakdown of work that's got into this podcast, or should we just leave that alone?
We can. It doesn't bother me. James is the heavy hitter in this podcast. My job is to be the funny guy, show up. It's not my job, but at the moment, that's all I'm doing is, and I purchase the drinks.
Yeah.
and we both share the social media, but it's mainly been James, and then James is doing all of our editing. So all of you watching, this is James' handiwork. He had to learn quickly. He's done an amazing job, but we did a breakdown of ours, or James did a breakdown of ours. So
it's a little lopsided.
350 hours to my 50?
I think it was more like
10?
550 hours.
Oh, was it 5? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I just saw it just before I came in.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
it's fine.
It's fine.
fine.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
I don't have a kid, so I've got the hours up my sleeve, you know?
I saw this thing today at a Livin, LIVIN talk conference, and it had "I'm fine," and if you turn it upside down, it spelled out "Help me."
Does it?
No, like the way they wrote it.
Oh, right.
It doesn't actually.
I'm trying to work it out. I'm like, that doesn't even
And,
work.
oh, it was pretty clever what they did. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen an M written quite like that. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So we both had rough weeks.
Yeah.
Are we going to go into that?
Yeah, so you sent me a text on Saturday, and you were saying something along the lines of you and Alex have had a talk. Name dropped. Ooh, sorry.
That's okay.
And then drew attention to it. It's like I highlighted it and underlined it.
What's your partner's name? No, I think she'll be fine. She's one of our biggest fans. She listens to this every week, and she loves what we're doing. And she even helped me get two guests this week.
Yeah,
so that's
and
pretty
she's
cool.
going to come on soon.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, just to give you context, guys, we've got literally 10 weeks of guests booked out to come on. So the podcast is doing really well. We're getting lots of listens, and we're hoping. And I got my first message today. No, not a review. I got someone sent a message today. I'm going to read it out because
do it.
pretty stoked. Let me read out. If I can read it out well. So this for me was just like, this is why we're doing this, right? Here we go. Hey mate, hope you're well. Loving the podcast. I'm on episode 5, and I have already got out a lot out of it. I'm going home to my family more conscious of how I'm showing up and communicating with my partner more, which have been the biggest changes. So thanks to you and Ash for starting this podcast. It's really valuable to me, as I'm sure and will be to many other guys out there listening.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, I'm
Warm
like,
and
oh
fuzzies.
man, that's so cool that it's helped someone. Because I know it's helped me just having these guests on and talking to relationships and I think mainly relationships is help. Well, at the moment, because I don't have a child, I'm getting more out of that. And this week we and I think it's been hard. It's been really hard with Alex and I in terms of our relationship. And I think you're in a new relationship, and there's a lot of pressure on both of us to be that romantic partner, right? Because you're in a new relationship and you've got the honeymoon period, and like you're expected to you're in the honeymoon period for 3 to 6 months, and everything's great and shiny and beautiful and fun, and there's nothing too heavy. And we've just got
Don't throw out heavy. Don't throw out shiny and fun and heavy when you're talking about pregnant women.
shiny, fun, and
Shiny is you're like everything's shiny and fun and heavy, and it's like, and then I'm like, no, not a good way to describe it. Not when someone's pregnant. That's
I'm not describing her.
No. But I was like my brain went straight to that and then enter a pregnant woman. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, because I've been there, obviously.
Well, you've been a pregnant woman before?
Pretty much now. It's but yeah.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a challenging we have both been navigating this as best we can, and we both decided this week to take the pressure off ourselves to be in that romantic relationship, because we're both feeling that we should be showing up in a certain way, and we're both feeling that pressure. Having that chat to actually go, hey, let's just park the romantic relationship down for now. I'm not going to remove it off the table completely, but let's just put it aside for now, and let's focus on, because to be honest, it felt like neither of us could. Well, in particular, she couldn't show up in the way I needed her to be a romantic partner, and so my expectations were to be here, and obviously she was struggling to even just, with pregnancy in particular, there's so much going on with her body and this whole circumstance and work and all these other dramas going on that she could there's no way she could actually live up to those expectations that I had of her.
Yep.
And then likewise, I wasn't living up to the expectations she needed of me. And we had all this pressure on us to show up in a certain way. And those expectations, which we spoke to Marco about last week, about having those expectations of your partner to be a certain way. And for us, we needed to just take that pressure off. So we decided, hey, let's just take that pressure off for now. And let's just focus on being a really good, strong foundation of friendship that we can then support each other through this really challenging time and focus on being great parents and supporting each other. That was our focus. So let's focus on that. I'm not saying no to this romantic relationship that's never going to happen, but let's just leave that. Let's take the pressure off and move forward with just supporting each other. And the other framework we've put in as well, and I know this might sound a little bit kind of structural and I don't know, some people might think it's definitely anti-romantic, but putting some structure in how we communicate with each other. So I decided I said to her, every Sunday, let's check in with each other and have a conversation about how we showed up the week before. Is there anything we could have done better? Is there anything, did you need me to show up in a different way than how I showed up? And what would that look like? And if I can do one thing for you next week and show up in a certain way or show love in a certain way next week, what's that? Just one thing. Doesn't have to be everything. Doesn't have to be all the love languages or anything like that. Just one small thing that I can do for you next week to show you that I care and I love for you. What would that be? And how can I show up that way for you? And then I can just concentrate on that one small thing to show her that I care and I love her. And I spoke to someone today that said another thing you could do as well is just show some gratitude to your partner as well and say, hey, thank you for doing this for me last week. I'm just really grateful that you did that for me and I appreciate it and thank you. And just a little bit of an appreciation to your partner and just let them know that you do appreciate them because, and this is all that communication piece, right? Because if we're not communicating with our partner right, then you have these covert contracts that we spoke about with Tyler a couple of weeks ago where you expect your partner to show up in a certain way and they're not. So if we can kind of open up those communication pathways, create that safe space and structure and understand that there'll be no judgment and we just want to do the best we can in the circumstance and work out what that looks like together. And I don't know what that looks like right now because it's week one. But just having that conversation felt really good for both of us. And
taking that pressure off.
And the other thing we talked about as well is because this is all very scary, what's going on right now. Like we're having a kid and we barely know each other and like she's moving in a couple of weeks. I thought it was really a really good thing to ask her what her biggest fear is right now. Like what is your biggest fear in this relationship and how you're showing up? Like what's driving that behavior and what is your biggest fear? Tell me your biggest fear. I want to understand it. And vice versa, I shared with her my biggest fear and just going to the depths of those and being vulnerable, like we spoke about as well, is going, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling. This is my biggest fear. And this is how you're feeling. This is your biggest fear. And that way we could kind of meet each other and reassure each other that you've got nothing to worry about and we're going to support each other and go through that journey. So it was an awesome chat and it needed to happen. And it was a really good, I think a really great way of moving forward for us.
Yeah, because the thing about fear, I guess, is it's all in your head, right? And as soon as you breathe light into what you're fear about and you bring it out in the open, the sooner it dissipates, and like I've struggled with anxiety a little bit and, I've done that with journaling as well in the past. I don't have a good journaling practice, but, and hashtagging out, okay, what am I worried about right now? Writing it out and then writing out, mapping situations. And if you're keeping that bottled in to yourself, your partner's not a mind reader. And your partner's also pregnant as well. So she's all she's worried about, I can tell you right now, is the baby and her. You're last on the list. Like, that's just the way it is. And it sucks in a way, but they don't have time to think about you and your needs. You know what I mean? And you know, I get that it feels like you're getting neglected. But yeah, I think that's unreal. And I'm happy that you guys have done that. And that you are still moving, so you're still moving in at this stage together. And I think that's the other thing too, like, you know, Tish and I, we moved in together. So we had that catalyst every day. You know, I was talking to someone today at work and they had a fight with their partner. And it was like, you know, they're not living together. And I was like, you know, whenever Tish and I had a fight, I had to go home back to where she lives. And it was like, you know, it wasn't anything big.
You had to resolve it.
But we had to resolve it. We were forced to, where you guys not living in that space together, it must be hard.
Yeah.
But when you sent me that text, I thought you guys had because you said we're putting the romance aside or along those lines. And I was like, oh no, they've decided to co-parent. And then I thought this is going to be great content for the podcast.
Yeah, and
how to negotiate that. But I think that's really smart though what you guys have done. And it's like let's fuck the romance off now. Plenty of time to build that. And like to a degree, I think you know, Tish and I did a little bit of that anyway. But you know, and that's starting to come back into our lives now.
I think naturally you would have.
Yeah.
Right? I think naturally it's happening anyway. But if you just remove that pressure from expecting the partner to show up that way,
yep,
and just having that conversation, go, hey, like, I don't expect you to be that loving partner right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be, I don't need to be that either. And then we can kind of find each other organically in whatever way that is. And to be honest, I feel like we're closer than we ever were before.
Well, you've eliminated a lot of fear.
Yeah, and the expectations.
Yeah.
So we're removing, and it's like almost stepping back has actually brought us closer.
Yeah, how cool is that?
So it's an interesting thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And do you feel less stressed?
Yeah, I feel way less stressed, and I feel like, because there's part of me that thought, well, we're in this new relationship and I need to be that romantic partner, and we need to be having this romantic relationship, and she's expecting me to be that person.
Yeah.
But at the moment, she's not showing up the way I want her to be, and I can't show up the way I want to because I don't feel like my needs are getting met. And, you know, having that conversation just...
And that was coming across a lot on the podcast too, you know, that your needs weren't getting met and you were worried about that.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe because I'm sitting right next to you most of the time listening. But, yeah. And it was like... I felt a bit of concern there, so it's awesome that you guys have had that chat.
Yeah, and we have some sort of coping mechanism or a strategy to move forward. And for me, it's about the kid as well. Like, I just want to make sure I'm a good dad, and that's all I really care about the most, as well as being a good partner, a supportive partner, and let that also take that pressure off. You know, we don't need to get married. Like, we were having this conversation before. You don't need to get married and be that stereotypical family like that.
Yeah. Should I share that story real quick?
Yeah.
So we were talking to Marco when he wrapped up, and you know, like when so obviously Tish and we fell pregnant quite quick, and you know, when Billy was born, Mum's like, oh, by the way, I've got some diamonds, you know, they're little, if you want to get a ring made up for her, you can do that. And I was like, you know, felt this pressure to propose. And I was like, hang on. Like, I didn't even know my partner a year. And I felt this pressure to propose to her because I think to some level, probably Mum would have felt more comfortable at that stage going, oh, they've just had a baby, they're engaged. You know? But it's like, no, I'll do that in my time. And if that works out. Right now, I need to focus on our relationship, on being a dad, learning the ropes of being a dad, and then building that romance back up into our relationship. Because, you know, being a new parent, and we've had some amazing times in these last months of being, like, Billy's 8 months old now. She's coming, or 9 months nearly. You know, like, we've had some amazing times. would I say they're romantic? No, but they're beautiful moments, family moments, playing on the beach, like all three of us. Every morning Billy comes into our bed and she wakes up every single morning, and Tish does these videos where she'll film Billy every morning, and have like almost like a day log of these like morning moments with Billy. And some of them are just amazing. She shares those on her social media as well. And it's like, but I wouldn't say it's romantic, like that romance. And now it's starting to get back into the romantic stage. Tisha's still like a zombie, for the lack of a better word. Like she has still no sleep, and that's challenging. But I think, taking that pressure off and having that conversation. I've been a nervous wreck for the last year as well, because for the exact same reasons that you probably, like, what the hell is this going to be?
And what does it? And what should it be? And what does she expect it to be? And if you don't have those conversations, how are you to know?
Yeah, exactly. I internalized a lot of it, and just let it, because I knew ultimately it would be fine. There's nothing to worry about. Ultimately, and we have our fights every now and then, and they're over silly things.
Yeah, well, it's never about the plates not getting washed, is it? It's always a bigger issue. You know what I mean? It's not about the noodles. It's never about the noodles. There's usually, it's a straw that broke the camel's back, or it's about a behaviour, not the actual thing. And I think we just got to, sometimes we don't understand that.
Yeah. Matter. It's the matter, not the manner.
Exactly.
I don't
know if that's
that up. but yeah, it's James. I'm trying to remember the noodle story fully, but it was basically I don't know if I should share it, but I'm going to. That's the spirit. It was something along the lines of, so I'd been fasting all day. Obviously, I've been struggling a bit with my weight, for me anyway. And
you're looking pretty slim in that nice dark blue new accidental fatherhood shirt, by the way. Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
I've also wound the chair down a little bit to hide the gut.
The bulge.
The bulge. The booby. Wait, speaking of which, I heard this story yesterday. I digress. I heard this story yesterday. Some guy took a 12-pound shit.
What?
A 12-pound. He was blocked up for a month. He was in the UK. Holds the record for the biggest shit ever taken.
That's huge.
On record. 12.
That is literally having a baby.
They offered him an epidural. I was like, do you reckon that guy...
Did they really...
Yeah, 100%. Do you reckon that guy was like...
Oh, he'd be like, give me the fucking epidural straight away.
Well, I was going to say, do you reckon that guy knew he had to take Le Mans classes or whatever they are?
We need to do hypnobirthing classes before the shit.
I wonder if he had contractions.
What if the water broke?
Oh, man, imagine if it did.
Well, sometimes
all this poo water.
Usually you do a piss first, right?
Imagine if he had a poo plug.
Oh, man.
Imagine, do you reckon he would be able to get away with when girls are like, you don't know what childbirth's like? Do you reckon he'd be like, actually, I have some experience?
I reckon
hold the record.
I reckon that class is as experience.
Apparently, there's a photo of a nurse walking around with this tray, like one of those bedpans.
How good would it must have felt afterwards? How good he just like, oh.
I don't know, man. I reckon there might have been a bit of blood,
but it must have been a good relief.
Dabbing some milk on the old ring stinger.
What? What do you mean dabbing milk? Is that what you do?
No. My dad tells this story of when he was a young kid. He sat on a fuel on a fuel can on a 44-gallon drum of fuel, and someone had just emptied a bit of fuel out. So he got this. He got fuel basically on his butthole, and he said, "Oh, the burn!" He went and sat on a saucepan of milk.
Is it like a hot curry? You know when they say,
yeah, like a ring steam. Imagine if but he waited a month until he sought help. Wouldn't you be eating prunes on day 4?
I don't know, man.
That's a big
I just
shit.
don't think milk's gonna. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know if he needed stitches or what. Also, yeah. Anyway, multicolored. It would have had to have been.
There's always corn in there.
Well, could you imagine the stuff that he would have tried to eat? Like
To try and get the shit out.
Try and get it out. Like they would have been curries and all sorts. It would have been a layered turd, like a shitty birthday cake.
There'd be some fossils in there, like excavating dinosaurs out of. Man, I wonder how long had it been? Do you know how long it was?
1 month. 1 month.
1 month of poo
1 month of
in one go. Whew.
Yeah.
That hurts my butthole just thinking about it.
Why didn't it come out in pebbles, James? That's what I want to know.
Do you know wombats' shits are square pebbles? That's weird, isn't it?
Well, do they have a square butthole?
I don't know.
Begs the question.
I assume it's square.
You would have to. Like, how can you get a square, that old square peg, round hole sort of deal? Must have a square butt. They're
have.
little cubes.
Little cubes. Wombats do cubed poos. Lesson for today.
Anyway.
Hey, where were we?
I don't know. I think we were talking about the noodles.
Yes,
we were. So, so basically what happened, I was fasting. I was like, I'm going to start back into intermittent fasting, start back on the Lion diet, which is Jordan Peterson's daughter's diet, which helps inflammation, all that sort of stuff, as well as dropping a whole bunch of weight. So I was like, okay, let's integrate intermittent fasting. I'll do a little bit of keto. So I've started putting a little bit of cream into my coffees, and then I'll do the Lion diet, and I'll do that for 4-5 weeks just to flush my body and then give me a good start. Today went out the window though. I'm drinking beer. So good start to the diet. Shout out to Green Beacon Brewing. Anyway, but did I communicate this to my partner? No, I did not. And so I thought I'll just start by doing intermittent fasting first. Got home. It was a hectic afternoon with Billy. Billy's been I don't know, she was teething or what. But it was just hectic afternoon. So tried to do the bub thing, helped out there, and I was like, I'm starving, going to get some noodles. Tish does not know that I hadn't eaten all day at this stage. She still doesn't, actually, to be fair. So I was like, I need a quick snack because I don't want to cook dinner right now because I want to show up for my partner, right? So in my head, I'm like, what's quick? 2-minute noodles. Let's do that. Anyway, I could tell that it upset Tish, because she really needed a break. And it was like she had a couple of rough nights with Billy as well. But yeah, and then, you add that onto me just being a general mess in the house. It was like she just needed to offload. And she just offloaded in a message, which is fair enough. But I took it really to heart, and it affected my mood so much. And then Tyler came in, and we started talking about it was just perfect timing, to be honest, that Tyler came in, because I was like, I'm living in this grey area right now, and I sort of needed to get back into that sort of dark masculine state. I was like, okay, this has happened. Let's acknowledge that it's happened. Let's, and to be honest, mate, if I didn't listen to Tyler that day, I probably would have kept going down in that grey masculine, energy sort of thing, where I was sulking, feeling sorry for myself, being really worried, tiptoeing around, walking on eggshells, doing all of that sort of stuff. And it would have, it would not have been conducive for our relationship at all. And then, thank Christ, Tyler rolled on in and was so generous with all the information, because I just got so much out of it. I went home, I acknowledged the fact that it was, bad. And then I started doing certain things.
Like cleaning up after yourself?
Cleaning up after myself, throwing out some clothes, doing some extra stuff. It's right now it's a Band-Aid. Like, I know what I've got to go do. But I don't know about you. Like, I just find that life right now is so stressful. Finances, work, outside, like home pressures. I've deferred doing the diploma of leadership so I can have a bit more time at home. I'm like, well, right now it's not a good time to take on that once a week lesson, which is, it was 4 hours and then assignment work on top. Probably not a good time to do that. I've reduced a lot of the other stuff. I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago about, and I said something like, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So what have you got to, what can you, like, you can't just, what you got to sacrifice. You got to be like, what am I going to suck at? So I was like, okay, I've taken too much on. So I've started to really like get back down on all that stuff that I was taking on, reduce that stuff that was, so that I can show up more, at work and everything. But it's just, yeah. So right now I've stuck a Band-Aid on that for sure. But I know that I've got to continue doing work on that. Otherwise otherwise that Band-Aid's going to fall off eventually. And there's going to be another noodle incident as well. And it's too much pressure on Tish. Like, I've got to show up more at home.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can't change someone.
Yeah.
You can't change, like, I don't think, and I'm going for this for my sister-in-law's a bit messy. I won't use the word slob.
You just did. Oh,
I don't think she listens anyway. So, but
I hope not.
She's when I had to come to grass, because I was living with her and Phil, and I'm a very clean person. I like things in their place, and I don't mind if it's a mess as long as it's in one place. There's a pile of mess, and then everywhere else is clean. But she liked to keep mess all over the house, and I'd find myself cleaning up after them all the time and having that resentment. Oh, like, I'm bloody cleaning up after them again. They don't care about me. I'm, this is my area too, and they're just leaving shit everywhere. And, that's not fair. I'm always cleaning up after them, blah, 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 right? Everyone's been in that situation, I'm sure. Or you're on the other side and you're making the mess.
Yeah.
And what I had to come to terms with is my level of cleanliness is not the same as her level of cleanliness. And I had to accept that she was never going to change, ever.
Yeah.
Like, that's who she is. And that's me trying to force her to change her behavior is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I can suffer because I want it to be a certain way, and resist what the, happiness is accepting everything that it is. And I can resist that and be unhappy, because she's never going to change, and she's always going to be being inconsiderate, that I would say, to my level of cleanliness. But she has strengths in other areas. She's an amazing cook. Amazing. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, look, she's not the cleanest, and I need to be okay with that. So I had to just kind of meet her halfway and go, you know what? I'm not going to clean up after her anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be okay with the mess and make peace with the mess, and know that it's not intentional. She's not doing it to upset me, as you're not doing it to upset your partner. You're not making mess everywhere to upset her, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to change. Let's be honest.
No, I'm putting things in. I'm trying to put things in place, like minimalism. So I'm trying to get rid of.
Yeah, you're trying to help, and you probably will make changes, but you'll probably slip back into the your standard behavior, whatever that is.
100%. I will.
Yeah. So you've got to I had to make peace with that and know that, yes, she's bad at this, but she's fucking awesome at that.
So what you're telling Tish is that she's going to make peace with the fact that I'm a slob.
Kind of, and also just realize that you have strengths in other areas.
Yeah.
And that just because you're bad at one thing doesn't mean you're bad at everything. And just because that upsets you, and that your behavior upsets her, like that doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing in terms of the way you live your life. And there's just like a bit of a disconnect between you two and your expectations of each other and your level of cleanliness to her level of cleanliness. And that's going to take some calibration and some understanding from both parts to understand that you've got to move a little bit and she's probably going to have to move a little bit and find that middle ground somewhere. For me, I just had to accept that it wasn't going to change. And as soon as I accepted that this is just going to be like this and make peace with the mess, I was okay with it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to clean up after them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live in the mess. And then I'd have my bedroom or my place in the house where it was my space.
Yep.
And that was always clean.
Yeah.
So I had control over my space and that was always clean and I was fine with that. And then the shared space, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make my peace with that and know that she's not doing it intentionally. It's just that's how she lives and that's her level. And also she's got strengths in other areas. And when she cooks meals, she's so amazing. So I've got to look at those other strengths and know that, you know, they're there as well.
Yeah. See, I'm a night owl too. So like for me, I do all my cleaning at night before bed usually, or I have done in the past. And to the baby, you know, like we'll have dinner and then, or we might feed Billy dinner and then we'll put Billy to bed and then we'll have dinner, whatever it may look like, the bed routine. It's a bit hit and miss sometimes, as in, we don't know if we're eating with Billy or after Billy. It just depends on the day, right, and what we're having. So anyway, what I do typically after dinner, that's my wind down time for me, my wind down time. And I like to wind down by watching TV. I'll watch some fucking garbage on TV and I switch off.
What have you been watching?
I watched the new Game of Thrones, whatever that shit is.
How good is it?
You liked it?
I really liked the House of the Dragon. Loved it.
I want to see episode 2 before I make any.
Oh man, I think they've nailed it.
Yeah,
I reckon they've nailed it.
Yeah.
Have you watched that Sandman yet?
Yes,
That's
watched
good.
Sandman.
It's good, isn't it?
Binged that.
Yeah,
binged the shit out of that.
I really enjoyed it. It was very different.
Yeah,
but House of the Dragon, I think they've just nailed it.
Yeah, well, Neil Gaiman's my favourite author. So, and I, you know, like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about books or stories that you were listening to. Yeah, well, I used to listen to Neil Gaiman audiobook of Norse mythology, and it was just stories of Thor, Loki. I should know all their names. I've listened to the book on repeat. Odin, Freak or something. Fricka, yeah. Right. Anyway, all these stories and they're fucking sick. And he narrates it. He actually reads the book. And his voice, I don't know if you've heard him, but he's got this like really unique voice. And he tells his ability to tell the story and get into the role and then it's just amazing. And I used to listen to that on repeat every night when I used to wind down to sleep. So, because I started getting panic attacks at night before bed, I would actually be scared of falling asleep. I got to a stage where, whilst Tish and I have been together in this last sort of year, that I was scared to fall asleep.
You weren't having any caffeine before bed, like a cup of tea or anything, were you?
No. As I was dozing off, as I was drifting off, I would get into a fight or flight mode. It's like you're dying. And I'd wake up and then I wouldn't get any sleep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a mental case. But I think that was from not doing anything, James. Like it was during COVID. I had a wrist injury. I didn't do any weights because I wasn't able to because work cover kicked me off. And I was trying to fight back to get back onto work cover. So the one thing that I could do was ignore my GP and ignore the GP. The GP is like, you can do weights and stuff as long as it doesn't hurt your hand. It was basically just stop everything because I didn't want to, I was desperately trying to get back onto work cover. Lost that battle, but anyway. and I think it was just I've spent my entire my entire life I've been active and doing things. So when I went to bed, I was tired, and then all of a sudden, I didn't have any way to get energy out.
Yeah, and your mind loves to grab hold of things. I was going to actually say this before because I had a bit of I was having trouble with that client, and I was going through a bit of anxiety around that, and I found that I would really concentrate and focus on anxiety, and my whole kind of existence was I'm anxious, and like concentrating on it.
Yep.
And I feel like, where your focus goes, where the energy goes, whatever the saying is, it grows. And I felt like the more I focused on being anxious, the bigger a problem it felt in my life. And it was just all I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So I made a decision last week. I was literally riding to work and I'm like, you know what? Fuck anxiety. I'm not going to say I'm anxious anymore. Like, I'm not even going to say, oh, I'm anxious. I'm like, I'm just going to start thinking about other shit, because the more I thought about it, the more I felt anxious and the more it just consumed my life. And I felt like maybe if I can shift the focus onto something else, I'll stop feeding it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
And I really found it worked. Like this week's been amazing, and I'm starting to really kind of, not give that the power that it had over me.
Yep.
Which is easier said than done. But yeah.
100% easier said than done.
But I feel like, because when you couldn't sleep right, your mind would have gone, every time you went to sleep, your mind would have grasped onto that, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, and you'd focus on it.
Oh, 100%.
So
it's like, don't think about the elephant.
Yeah. The pink elephant,
Fucking everybody's thinking about an elephant.
Yeah.
I had an MRI this week on my hand.
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny, they're like, don't move your hand, keep it still. And I'm like, that's probably the worst thing that you could say to someone. It goes for 30 minutes. It's the worst thing that you could say to someone, right? Like the best thing that you could probably say to someone is, hey, don't focus on,
Try and keep it still, but it doesn't matter if you move a little bit.
Yeah, or even better, like, hey, don't focus on the sound, right? And then all of a sudden, the entire time I would have been focusing on the sound and being like, why the fuck did they say don't focus on the sound for? And I would have been sitting there perfectly still going, why would they tell me not to focus on the sound? Like, I'm hearing that. Oh, don't hear that. Listen to the music. You know what I mean? Like, or hey, don't close your eyes. Like, oh, okay. Like
that's that's a trick I use when I'm having trouble sleeping. I'll in the middle of the night I'll go, okay, I'm going to try and, because how you're trying to sleep and you got your eyes closed and you just can't get to sleep. I'm like, I'll say to myself, you got to hold your eyes open, and I'll lay in bed and I'll have my eyes wide open and I'll just try and keep them open as long as I can. And it's like reverse psychology.
Yeah.
And then I'll just start my eyes will just start closing and I'll just get really sleepy and I'm off.
Yeah.
It's weird how that kind of works as well, like reverse psychology and Anyway.
What were we talking about? You know what? I am interested though. Like, so obviously, when we got pregnant, I wasn't doing any of my normal stuff that I used to do because of my hand injury, and what was going on with that. And now I'm really struggling to get back into some of that stuff. I know it's going to hurt my hand, but I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And then I'll deal with the pain in the hand somehow. Like I listened to this podcast from Jocko this week. And
Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink, one of my favourite podcasters. And been listening to him since the early days when he was on Tim Ferriss. And he had this guy on who's an active serviceman in Special Forces, and he lost his leg. So he's the first amputee from the knee, above the knee, doing active service as Special Forces. And I'm like, what the fuck do I have to complain about? Yeah, I've got a sore hand that hurts all the time. That's nothing. Why the fuck am I sitting around doing nothing? You know what I mean? Why am I letting this get to me so much?
Yeah.
And but it's going to be, and then so trying to combat that with also doing the fatherhood thing, as well as like the podcast. obviously, like we've discussed, that you are carrying a lot of the weight at the moment. But I'm really intrigued to see how you go when Bub comes along.
Oh, me too.
Or when Alex moves in. Named her again. Fuck.
There's two. It's fine. There's two big events happening. It's partner moving in and the challenges associated with that. And then there's the baby coming. So two people moving into my space.
So, and that's what, I don't know if I say it to you, but I always think it anyway, is one good thing that you've got going for you is that you've got all these processes in previously, like before.
Fit and healthy and...
Fit, healthy, you've got, and then you've got your routine already. So like if, you know, for you to go, oh, I'm going to go do Kung Fu on a Saturday morning. Well, Alex knows that you do Kung Fu every Saturday morning. Whereas if I say to Tish, hey, I'm going to go do Kung Fu on Saturday morning, she'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? You know, so it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. I know it's really important that you have your own time.
Yeah.
To do something that you need for yourself. So for me, I will hands down say to Alex, non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Kung Fu is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That's happening. So we have to work around that. It's non-negotiable. For me to be a happy person and to feel fulfilled in my life, I need to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a non-negotiable for me. So I'm happy for her to have non-negotiables. It's fine. But that's my non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just setting those expectations.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's not gonna, like obviously
we'll flash back to this episode in a year's time.
I mean, the journey so far hasn't been easy.
No.
You know, I sit here and go, oh, you know, we're working through things and stuff, but there's been some really hard conversations. There's been some really sad moments for me. I've felt very lonely in our relationship. You know, there's all this stuff going on and emotional, and you know, it's a lot to process, and it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
But you know, good things never are easy. You know.
No, that's exactly right.
The best things in life come. And I actually heard, I was watching a video this week, and they said that fatherhood or parenthood, it's not something that you would class as a fun experience. Like you don't go, oh, this is so fun. I love being a parent. Yeah. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
And all of those bad moments, like changing the nappies and, you know, all of those horrible things that make up pretty much 60 or 70% of your day, like just doing all that shit work, all that is not what you remember.
No.
You remember the good moments, and then when you reflect back on childhood, on the child's life, and you think about, I don't know, what was it like?
Yeah.
All you can remember is the good times and all of those nappy changes and those non-sleeping nights and all those things that you had to experience. They don't show up in your memories.
No.
You just remember those amazing moments, and that's when you reflect back. So, yeah, they said that parenthood is not fun, but it's one of the most beautiful experiences you will have, and it makes life meaningful and purposeful.
Oh, 100%. Like, you know, yeah, on that too, like when you're going through the shit times and with your partner and you're both sleep deprived, try not to make it a scoring competition because it's so easy, and it's so easy to feel like it is. You know, and that's the thing. It's not, there's no scoreboard in a relationship or in parenting at all. And that was something that I learned last week. But it's you know, like, yeah, Tish gets up and does everything, but it's like, well, I'm tired too. You know, like, yeah, I don't get up, or maybe I wake up but she doesn't see me get up, you know, or she doesn't see me wake up. Like, I'll often wake up during the night and it's a broken sleep. It's nowhere near what Tisha's going through. Like, she's a fucking superwoman, honestly. And I think all mums are. But yeah, it's I don't remember that. Like, even now in Billy's short life of 8 months or 9 months, whatever she is, it's like, yeah, I don't remember that. I remember the giggles in the bathtub or whatever it might be. You know, the jumping up and down on the bed, or, you know, saying mum for the first time, like mum, 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 mum. Like it's kind of, I'll be like, dad, oh, dad, dad, dad. And she'll be like, mum, 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 mum. And it's like, you little bitch.
Yeah. Phil was trying to get, it was like a little bit of a competition between them. It's like, who was he going to say dad or mum first? And Phil was convinced, I'm just going to implant dad in the mind.
So I reckon, here's the thing, right? So when girls put them on solids, they put a spoonful of whatever the fuck it might be, avocado in the mouth. We've got a lot of money to swear jar, by the way. But they'll put whatever in the mouth and they'll go, And I'm like, I clicked the other day.
That's mum.
That's mum. And they'll be like, food, you're rewarding me for, right? Yeah. So any dads out there that are trying to, make the
It's a losing battle there.
Well, I started going, duh.
Dad. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go. That's going to work. I think.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll find out. Billy might have some learning difficulties.
Takes after dad.
Duh.
Yeah. I was. Speaking of like, I don't know how I'm going to go because who knows how I'm going to go with childhood. Being a dad, being a dad. But I watched a child psychologist. Her name is Vanessa Lapointe, and she wrote a really good book, and it's over there, but I forget what it is. But she said she had her first child, and she classes children in two categories.
Yeah.
She goes, they're either a daffodil or they're a dandelion.
Right.
She goes, my first child was a dandelion. Dandelions will grow anywhere. They don't need much light, food, whatever. They'll grow in little tiny gaps in the concrete. She goes, I thought I was the best mum in the world. This kid was so easy. She goes, I'm just super mum. I'm a natural. This is easy. She goes, my next child was a daffodil. And she goes, daffodils need just the right amount of light. They need just the right amount of water. They need just the right amount of food. Like every single thing affects them. They're so fragile.
If your kids are anything like you, it's going to be a daffodil. I was a dandelion.
You're a dandelion. I'd probably be a daffodil. I reckon Alex is a daffodil as well. So it's not looking good, but yeah, daffodils are dandelions. So you got the two there. So some are just really easy, and some are just need a little bit extra love. So
you'll be fine.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting though. Well, how many weeks now?
I think we're 22, 23 weeks now. I'm really looking forward to just seeing the baby.
Yeah,
I think that's something I'm looking forward to the most. We still don't know. No sex.
Not going to find out.
No. Well, I will find out
when
it comes. Yeah.
What are you doing? Birthing classes? Have you sorted that shit out? You guys are doing what we did.
Yeah, we haven't done anything yet.
Which is actually, so here's the thing. So we did hypnobirthing. I think I've spoken about it a lot on the podcast. Megan and Moore, anyone on the Gold Coast, highly recommend. You guys can search her. Hopefully we can swindle her on the podcast at some stage. But she was fantastic. Hypnobirthing, highly recommend. In saying that, girls' journey, they get to choose whatever. But we didn't realise we came in. We got into her class and we were like really late. So by the time the classes were finished, we only had 5 weeks or something left of our pregnancy. All these other people had done it early, and we caught up with the mothers group. And shout out to those girls and boys; they listen as well. But they, it was actually worked out really well because everything was fresh for us. So. It's actually probably not a bad thing that you guys haven't.
We're still deciding whether we go private or public, as well.
I would go
once again, Ash, it's the woman's choice here, really.
It is, but I mean, we did the turnstile one, so we were in and out the same day.
Public
turnstile in and out the same day. I've got friends that went private, and it was. They come out of hospital really well rested because nurses look after their bubs.
Yeah,
essentially.
I think, because my partner's not close her parents aren't close. There's no support, like her family aren't close.
Yeah.
I think she kind of would have liked to have a little bit of a support.
But you can get that in the public system as well.
Yeah.
We chose not to. And then when the midwives came and visited us within the next couple of days, checked in
Yeah.
on Bub, checked in on everything.
But there's also, I think there's part of it that she wants continuity of care. So she wants to have the same midwife post, pre, and during the pregnancy, so that there's like familiar, because once again, her mum probably won't be there. Her family are far away. It's like she just wants a familiar face to help her through that.
Yeah.
That can give her kind of that security and safe.
Yeah.
So
Friends of mine had their obstetrician and booked in for that exact reason, and
they
she was on holidays.
Yeah, which can happen.
Well, the people too, they've got lives as well, right?
Our obstetrician said that she's going on holidays 2 weeks after, so she'll be there. She reckons she will be.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
First pregnancy though, could go 2 weeks late.
Could do.
Or maybe obstetrician.
Could be a Christmas baby, because we're pretty close to the 17th or 18th of December. So
Baby Jesus.
it could be. I've got a friend who's born on Christmas Day.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and he is very Christian, actually.
Yeah.
He's the most Christian man I know.
He's the biggest guy I know. He's
Mr. Natural bodybuilding Australian champion.
Yeah.
Or was.
Talk about physique. That guy. Want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I reckon we could wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to speak to around?
No, I'm just really grateful for all the guests that have come on. If you do want to come on, go to the website, I guess, and follow the links that James has kindly set up.
Yeah, there's a form
And
there.
then there's a form.
And we'll get in touch and have a chat. And and if you have any questions or any subjects or anything you want us to talk to, maybe get in touch on our Instagram.
Yeah.
And just shoot some questions through, because we can get any guests on here and talk about anything you want. So if you've got any burning questions, or especially with previous guests, if you've got any questions you want to ask us to previous guests, because more than likely some of them will be coming on to season 2. Yeah. So we can address some of those questions too. So that'd be cool, just to if you be a bit interactive. So if you've got any questions you want, or any subjects you want us to address, get in touch.
Or if you want to sponsor the podcast, reach out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.